You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
And welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. We've talked about how the Lubbock City Council seems dead set on implementing these impact fees on future business development. This week, the fee ordinance passed its first council vote 6-1. The council says it needs the money to pay for infrastructure into these new homes and businesses. Developers say it's essentially a tax to be passed on to buyers. It's got one more vote before it becomes official. And yes, we're in a serious coronavirus case surge in Lubbock County. A lot more cases, a lot more people have passed away, a lot more in the hospital. Got to take this virus serious, folks. If not for others' health, then at least for the fact it could end up costing you and others money. And this week, Covenant's chief medical officer said the words that no one wanted to say, that the governor is watching.
We don't want the economy shut down again, but that is absolutely dependent on us keeping our caseload below that 15%, and we're dangerously close.
But we need people to isolate when you test positive or you've been exposed. You do that for yourself, you do it for your family members, you do it for your neighbors. Please, please.
The governor is sending more medical personnel and supplies here to help hospitals with the surge, but no shutdown talk from Mr. Abbott or from Mayor Pope for that matter. Although his election opponent Stephen Sanders released a statement against any such move, saying in part, Lubbockites are doing everything they've been told to do by health officials and should be trusted to continue doing so. We should rise to the occasion and tough it out. Our economic well-being demands it, which is pretty much what Mr. Pope has been saying here. You can read the full statement at everythinglubbock.com. Did anyone watch any of the Supreme Court confirmation hearings this week and wonder why Judge Barrett was even there? And not because of COVID safety, as much as the senators just seem to want to talk about something else. The real talking could come when this thing finally gets to the full Senate for debate, which could really be a circus. But until then, KMAC's Anna Warnicki has the comments from your Texas senators.
For the first half of Thursday's hearing, Supreme Court nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett was barely mentioned.
This is a sham.
I very much hope this does not happen.
Democrats on the committee argued if the Senate should even be holding the hearing in the first place.
The purpose of doing it is simply to have a justice on the Supreme Court, as the president said, to decide the election and to strike down the Affordable Care Act.
Connecticut Democrat Richard Blumenthal unsuccessfully attempted to delay the proceedings until after the election.
Democrats on and off the committee want a real fight.
Texas Republican Senator Sen Cornyn says Democrats are only focused on their own political gain.
Because they've become accustomed to the Supreme Court being policymakers and being a body that bails them out if they can't win the election or win a vote in Congress.
How did we get here?
The committee's chair, South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham, tried to get the senators back on track.
We're talking about things unrelated to qualifications.
She's going to be confirmed. The Senate will confirm Judge Barrett as Justice Barrett. I believe will do so by the end of the month.
Graham says the Senate Judiciary Committee will vote on Barrett's nomination next Thursday. If approved, a full Senate vote will take place the following week. In Washington, I'm Anna Warnicki.
Anna, you almost want to apologize to Judge Barrett that this had to happen in the middle of a really contentious election cycle, one that Senator Cornyn there finds himself squarely in the middle of. He talked about that and more with KMAC's Wes Rappaport, who asked the senator first for his thoughts on the president's Supreme Court candidate.
My impression is that she's an outstanding nominee. I hope we don't see a repetition of some of the anti-Catholic bias that we saw demonstrated in her Seventh Circuit nomination. Now some of the arguments against her suggest that somehow she's already decided how to vote in a case that she hadn't even heard on the Supreme Court, which seems like quite a stretch and basically accuses her of being willing to violate her oath. I think she's an honorable person, and I think she in all likelihood deserves to be confirmed.
I want to ask you about the president and your support for him. I know you've been a Trump supporter, but there have been times where you have distanced yourself from certain policies, certain behaviors on social media. Where does your support for him stand right now, and what would it take for that to change?
Well, I've been in Washington long enough to know the difference between what people say and what they actually do. And I think what the president has done has been very positive for the country by and large. There's some things I wish he would pay more attention to, like the national debt. But I think with the economy so strong before this virus hit, it was basically the lowest unemployment for African Americans and Hispanics in the last 50 years. It was awesome. But unfortunately, now it's suffered a body blow as a result of the virus. So to me, the most important thing is who's best prepared to help regrow our economy after the virus is in our rearview mirror. And I think that's President Trump. Do I agree with the way he conducts himself, whether it's on Twitter or elsewhere? Well, no. But he, we've all tried to talk to him about it, and I don't think he's going to change the way he conducts himself. But by and large, I think he's been a successful president because he's kept his promises.
Do you have a message for Attorney General Paxton about the mess that he seems to find himself in right now, you being a former Attorney General of Texas?
Yeah, well, I revere that office, and it's a tremendous responsibility to be the chief law enforcement officer of the state. That's why I've been troubled from the beginning, from his first indictment, that that hasn't been resolved in 5 years. I think that is a bad thing for the office, and I wish he would have gotten that resolved one way or the other earlier. The latest allegations, of course, I have no personal knowledge of, but I agree that they're very serious and they need to be investigated, and I trust they will be. So I'm going to reserve judgment until that's concluded. But I'm not really happy with the way he has handled that office, and particularly under a cloud during this last 5 years.
Do you think it's appropriate for him to continue leading that office under the cloud he's in?
Well, I know a number of have called upon him to step down. I think we ought to reserve judgment until we know more about the details. But it is pretty dramatic when his senior staff walk out and basically file a complaint against him. That's really unprecedented. And so obviously they feel very strongly about it, but I'm going to wait until the authorities conclude their investigation.
I know I've got to let you go soon, but I want to ask you about not only your message for Texans, but how you think that you'll be able to set yourself apart from your challenger.
Well, I think it's going to be pretty easy because MJ was recruited by Chuck Schumer, and obviously he's counting on her to come help push a hyper-partisan agenda in the United States Senate. Senator Schumer said everything is on the table, from eliminating the legislative filibuster to packing the Supreme Court to making D.C. and Puerto Rico states with 2 senators each. I mean, this is the most radical bunch I think I've ever seen in my life. And MJ seems fine with that. She has raised her endorsement by Elizabeth and others. Most of the money that she's raised, she got from Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. I think there's a clear choice.
And is there anything that you'd like to highlight about your campaign efforts moving forward?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that I've been called one of the most effective members of the United States Senate. And the only way you are effective in the Senate is by working with people, sometimes that you disagree with on many things, but you find common cause with. The most recent example is we passed in the Senate Jenna's Law. I worked with Maggie Hassan, the Democratic senator from New Hampshire, to basically take a Texas law that was passed in 2019, I believe it was, and now to make this the law of the land. And particularly it's appropriate now where teachers continue to be some of the most common sources of reporting of suspected child abuse, including sexual assault. So that's just an example of how I've learned how to be effective, and something I think during a turbulent time like this, when the nation is so polarized, I think is something people are going to be looking for.
Senator Cornyn with our West Wrap Report. Straight ahead. You'd rather vote by mail, but you're not sure you'll trust that it's going to get there and get counted.